Good morning, everyone. On a Monday morning, it's terrific to see so many people here. A very warm welcome to this Policymakers Forum, from attitudes to action, workplace equality and respect. And what a terrific time in history to be talking about these important issues. My name's Tracey Spicer, and it's my absolute honour to be your MC for this morning's proceedings. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land upon which we stand, the Boonwurrung and Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Please welcome to the stage now Uncle Bill Nicholson.
Yes, thanks Tracey, and thank you to the people behind today's gathering. For thousands of years, when people have gathered on this sacred land, there has been a ceremonial process of welcoming people to country, which I believe is a very important part of our human nature, to want to feel welcomed when we go places. So I'll give you a little bit of background on that. But first of all, I'd like to start off welcoming people to the land in the language of the land. For thousands and thousands of years, or as our stories say, since the beginning of time, the Wurrung language has been spoken here until recently. And I'd like to say to you all, Waminjika, Gabamala Mangil, Balambun Yalambu, Wurundjeri, Balak, Nirina, Maranbik, Bill Nicholson. Welcome and greetings. Good day from the Wurundjeri people. My name is Uncle Bill Nicholson. I stand here proudly as a representative leader, or elder as we call our leaders in our community, a long line of elders. I'd like to acknowledge my elders past, because I wouldn't even be here without them, for my culture, for my identity, for this land, and I suppose most of all, importantly of all, for my survival and my family's survival. I'd like to extend that acknowledgement to our fallen warriors and clans who fought for their sovereign right to protect this land and their families. I'd also like to acknowledge our cultural leaders of today, both men and women, and of all age groups, because we have many of them, and it's great to see a very strong, passionate future or next generation coming through our ranks. The Wurundjeri Willam is the traditional clan name of Wurundjeri. We are the people of that sacred river, which you can almost see out the window there. The Yarra River, as you would know it, we don't call it that, we call it the Birrarung, the River of Mists. It is our symbol of our physical and spiritual connection to this sacred country, and I really encourage everyone to actually understand your responsibility to both our water, our environment, and to our country, as we all should play a part. We are part of a larger group called the Kulin Nation, or Kulin family, or kinship, which takes in a large chunk of southern and central Victoria. Now, we didn't just live off this land, we thrived off this country. This part of Australia was the most highly populated Indigenous areas before colonisation, managed expertly by the old people, by the elders and their wisdom, based on a very strong cultural framework, which we're still trying to embed into our communities today. I'll give you a little bit of a snapshot of that. A very efficient culture, 2 to 6 hours a day to sustain your family. And if you're working full-time today, you're working way harder than that. A very structured culture with our traditional laws, and welcoming people to country is actually part of that. I'll explain that shortly. A very sustainable culture. The scientists say 40, 50, 60,000. They keep bumping the numbers up. But we don't have those numbers in our language. That's why I say our stories say since the beginning of time. Also, a very responsible culture, both to family and to country, where everyone played their specific part to keep this country healthy, because very much our particular community's health very much relied on that. And a very fit, healthy and vibrant culture. Now, just up the river, there's a big stadium they call the MCG, where many thousands of people go to watch football. Well, just interestingly enough, the traditional game of Marngrook was played in that area too, where a possum skin ball was booted through the air. So we're a very fit and healthy culture as well. Now, the colonial times, yes, everything turned on its head. Pretty much our particular history here from 1803, and still to this many days, the causes of dispossession, of failed treaty. The only ever attempted treaty here in this country was just upriver, not too far away. Non-human rights policies and disrespect for country and people. And not being allowed to be part of the imposed economy really until 1967. Our economy was based on the environment. Our environment was very much changed and manipulated from the beginning of colonisation, and still is today. So we're trying to strive hard today here in Victoria to create a respectful treaty with the Victorian government and who knows, maybe the federal government one day, to create an economic sustainable base for our people. Because unfortunately, Aboriginal people all over this country still suffer social issues that I would never wish on anybody. And it does originate from those times. And actually, we still need to work very hard together in respect to try and overturn that. There's a word in our language I'd like you to remember. It's Jindi Warabak. It means come together and unite. And I really believe in the spirit of reconciliation. If we can create a pride within the non-Indigenous community of the Indigenous cultures of this land, I really believe we will take one massive step towards Jindi Warabak, or reconciliation. The welcome to country, what actually was it? Well, it's very similar to Australian law today that says you need a passport to access another country. Tandara Naji is your ceremonial passport. And actually just up the river, only a few metres away, was a major ceremonial ground of accessing both north, south, east and west of this country. The processes, when you came onto the land, we would offer you vegetation to symbolise your resource access. I call them sacred because I think we should all consider our country as that, because we do lack here in Australia both water and rich soil, so we have to really consider how we manage our country into the future. The snapping of the spear tip or the spear shaft symbolised safety. That's a very key aspect of feeling welcomed. The offering of water after we would drink it symbolised trust and respect. And when the British came up what we call Nutum Nutum Geelong Corio, which is now Port Phillip Bay, they noted the condition of this landscape being of park-like conditions, gentlemen's estates. Now this land was managed expertly and our main tool was fire. It's a physical cleanser and regenerator. The smoking ceremonial part of being welcomed is cleansing of something a little bit deeper than the physical world. We call it murup, your spirit. We believe in both good and bad, so we get people to walk through the smoke themselves, to cleanse themselves spiritually and of the land that people are meeting on. Can't light fires up here, so you're going to have to imagine that particular part of the ceremony. But I'd just like to say, this is Wurundjeri law. You can't be welcomed unless you respect people, country and culture. And as I said at the start, being invited here to do a welcome to country for your gathering, I feel that respect on behalf of my communities. So I'd like to say Waminjika Wurundjeri Biik is welcome to Wurundjeri country, and I hope you have a great gathering today. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Uncle Bill Nicholson, for that beautiful welcome to country. It's always lovely to hear traditional language, and it's very special to learn a new word, Jindi Warabak. Thank you so much for sharing those stories with us, Bill. I'd like to welcome some VIPs first up. I'm actually fangirling here. We have so many incredible women working in this space in the room today. I'd like to welcome the Minister for Women, Gabrielle Williams. Thank you so much for taking the time to come today. It's incredibly generous of you. Several Deputy Secretaries of State departments are here. We also have Kate Jenkins, the Sex Discrimination Commissioner, and the heads of our two partner organisations hosting this event alongside the Office for Women. Dr Lynn Roberts, Acting CEO of Vic Health, Melanie Eagle, Chair of Respect Victoria, and CEO of Respect Victoria, Tracey Gaudry, also Director Steve Walsh. Thank you very much for coming. I've been asked to speak just briefly for a few minutes about my own passion for this area. I became a journalist in the early Cro-Magnon era, a little more than 30 years ago, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, particularly at commercial television networks. I was sidelined and later sacked due to pregnancy discrimination 13 years ago, and what I learnt through that experience, through starting a national conversation in the media and taking legal action over that dismissal, was that this affected 1 in 2 women in the workplace. I received probably 800 emails back at that time from women, but also from men, saying the same thing happened to my wife, my daughter, my aunt, my mother. This must stop. And that taught me the importance of starting these conversations, but also talking about what practical policy changes need to be made to help everyone in the workplace and to make long-term changes for the next generation. Then the Me Too movement started, well, originally by Tarana Burke back in 2006, but the hashtag Me Too in Hollywood with Harvey Weinstein in October 2017. I put out a tweet saying I was investigating several people within my own industry. I expected to receive probably 10 to 12 responses. To this day, I've received 2,500 messages from people across all industries about various instances from sexual harassment to rape. One woman contacted me and said, "I'm 73 years of age." She wrote to me from regional Victoria. She said, "I was sexually harassed. In actual fact, it was indecent assault at her first job at the age of 17. She said, "I left that job. I never told anyone. I never trusted authority again." She said, "I never told my husband and he died last year." I said to her, "What can I do for you? Can I connect you with counselling or legal support? Would you like to tell your story in the media? I want to be led by you." She said, "I want none of those things. I just wanted to tell someone and be believed before I died." And that anecdote, I think, really sums up what is at the heart of this wave of feminism at the moment that's characterised by the Me Too movement. Marginalised voices are finally being heard. Attitudes are changing and action is being taken. I joined with Fairfax and the ABC to create a co-production to do 2 investigative journalism pieces, one on Don Burke and the other on Craig McLachlan. But I soon realised that because of Australia's tough defamation laws, that journalism in this country was not going to be enough to sustain the momentum of the Me Too movement. So I joined with about 30 other people online to create a not-for-profit, Now Australia, predominantly to use the power of the media to continue the visibility and the momentum of this movement, because I knew without these high-profile stories that would not be possible. Fortunately, we now have a wonderful world-first national inquiry by the Australian Human Rights Commission led by Kate Jenkins, and we do have that tremendous momentum for change. And this is why we need to continue this momentum through policy forums like today. I'm currently working on a 3-part documentary for the ABC to continue these stories across all industries, not just the high-profile Harvey Weinsteins, but the people working in fruit packing sheds out at Shepparton, those working on mining sites, the invisible and often hidden survivors of sexual harassment. But as we know, through Change the Story and the wonderful work of Our Watch, all of this is connected: discrimination, harassment, inequality. And that's what we're here to talk about today, how to connect the dots and to give you the tools to take action. Now is the time to embrace society's evolving attitudes and turn these into long-term sustainable action. This requires a whole-of-government response to violence against women, giving policymakers the practical tools to create the change, to walk the walk as well as talking the talk. And I have to say, having travelled around the country extensively in the last year and a half through doing the documentary and working with the not-for-profit, Victoria is absolutely leading the way in this country, streets ahead of everywhere else in this conversation and in the action being taken. This morning is all about bringing practitioners together to resource and further build understanding of the latest research into sexual harassment in the workplace, national attitudes to violence against women, and why gender equality and respect is important both in your own workplaces and those you work with around you. We'll focus on the recently released, and I have to say brilliant, workplace equality and respect standards and the suite of resources available to guide more positive attitudes and behaviours towards women and build true gender equality for the next generation. I'd like you all to do a very brief exercise before I invite up our first speaker. Could you please all close your eyes and visualise a powerful female leader? Okay, you can open your eyes now. Who visualised someone in the business community? Who visualised someone in the political sphere? Who visualised someone in the sporting realm? Who visualised themselves? Nice. That is one of the key messages I want to get through to you today, that often we think of leaders as someone external to ourselves, but each and every one of you in this room today is a leader. And we would love from this morning for you to create a ripple effect, not only with conversations in your family, because equality starts in the lounge room before the boardroom, but in your workplaces, at barbecues, wherever you get the opportunity, create that ripple effect. You have the power to make the change you want to see. We have such an amazing lineup of speakers. I'm incredibly fangirling. We'll have those speakers before morning tea, then we'll have a brief break for recaffeination, and then a panel discussion on where to from here. We'd love this to be